to Take a Wander with Chefs with your host, Chefs from Chefs the Wanderer. My guest today is Stephanie Claytor. Now, Stephanie is an award-winning reporter. She's also the founder of Blacktrekking. We discussed in detail about her blog, where she shares her family travels and destinations that focus on Black history and culture. We also spoke about her book, Blacktrekking-My Journey Living in Latin America, and what she learned from that time, plus some of her future goals. So sit back and enjoy. Thank you very much for coming on, Stephanie. I really appreciate your time. How have you been, and how has the year been as well for you?
Oh wow, this is a crazy year for me. I was pregnant. So I had my first child, my son, in June. My last trip, because I'm a travel blogger, was for my sister's baby shower in March. She had her daughter a month before mine. So it's been a wonderful year for our family. We have a lot of new children because my sister-in-law also had a baby. So lots of babies over here, but it's been kind of sad because, haven't really been able to travel. And so just dealing with that and with the pandemic. It's been rough over here in the United States. I live in Florida. For a while, we had a lot of cases. We've pretty much been in the house. So it's been challenging.
How is motherhood?
Motherhood is crazy. I don't think anything can prepare you for it, but it's also been a lot of fun. We enjoy just seeing all of his new developments. He's starting to sit up now, and it's been a blessing.
Where did the travel begin? I mean, was it your parents' love for travel, or how did it begin for yourself?
My mother made it a priority for us to travel every summer. We did family vacations, mostly across the United States. So we visited much of the South, much of the Atlantic coast, not too much out west. And so that's kind of where my love for travel began, is taking those summer family vacations, mostly road trips.
I guess when you were young, did you sort of understand all the journeys that your parents were taking you on?
Not quite, but I would say the trip that was very monumental for me was when I was 10. We went to California, and that is totally different from Ohio. The landscape looks different, the people look different. Back then, Ohio wasn't very diverse. And so when I went to California and I see all these people that look very different from what I'm used to, and even the language. And so that was a big one for me. We were walking around and we couldn't understand a lot of people. I believe now, looking back at it, that a lot of the people were speaking Spanish, and you just didn't hear that back in Ohio at that time. And so that was a shift for me because I didn't like not understanding people around me. And so that was when I decided that I wanted to pick up a second language, Spanish, and to become fluent in it. And I pretty much dedicated a lot of my career and studies to that endeavor.
It sounds like it was your first transformative experience. And when it comes at a young age, because mine was sort of very young as well, you remember that and you take that forward with everything that you do. You're actually a reporter, is that right?
Yes.
So
So,
are you reporting at the minute with everything that's going on? Is it remote still?
so I have worked as a television reporter for the past 10 years. I also have worked as a weekend anchor, but I did not return to work after having my son and my maternity leave. So I resigned in September, but I worked all the way up until June, pretty much 4 days before I had my son. And I worked remotely because I was pregnant, but I covered a lot of the pandemic, interviewed a lot of the people early on who had caught the virus, nurses who went up to New York to serve in some of the hospitals, and those stories were very impactful for me. A lot of the details I'll never forget. And so I think that kind of plays into it too when you've spoken to people who've actually dealt with the virus, over and over again. Like, even after the stories aired, I'm still texting back with them like, "Are you okay? Oh, you're back in the hospital. Oh, like, what's next?" So I think when you've actually spoken to people who've had the virus, you kind of see it differently. But basically right now I've just decided it's best to just stay at home with my son. and work on my travel blog and kind of take a break from working in news.
And would you plan on going back into the newsroom once things, I guess, get to some sort of normality?
I'm really not sure. I do love telling stories, um, but I also love to travel. And I like the freedom of having your own business. So I'm trying to see how I could grow my blog, Blacktrekking, and see where that goes. I think that's where I'm focusing right now, along with just caring for my son and figuring out, what's next and what's the next direction for our family. But I'm enjoying the time at home with my son and doing these type of interviews and writing for my blog and just really seeing, what this career path has in store for me.
When was it really that you sort of started writing blogs?
I started my blog, Blacktrekking, back in 2018. And I actually started it because I was working on my book, Blacktrekking-My Journey Living in Latin America. There it is. And I wanted to build the audience before the book was released. And so that was the impetus for starting the blog. And then once I started it, I was falling in love with it, just writing about our different travels all around the world. It was something I was very passionate about. And so that's kind of where it got started. And then just learning about, blogging and growing a social media audience and a blogging audience and email marketing, all of these things, going to markets and selling my book. It's been a fun ride.
With any sort of blog, there's got to be some sort of, I guess, uniqueness with any blog, really. And because I read your sort of travels, you're more into finding out about Black culture when it comes to traveling. And so, what got you interested in that? And why did you feel it was important to tell that story?
My family is African American. They're actually both of my grandparents kind of migrated from the South to Cleveland during the Great Migration. And so in that journey, some of the history was lost. And so, like, I didn't grow up in the South, but I live in the South now. And so I've always just enjoyed studying Black history and culture and learning about, because it's very diverse. And so that's something that I really enjoy doing, but I also like traveling the world. So my blog is a mixture of just talking about global destinations in my experience as a Black woman and now as a Black family entering these spaces. But then also, like, here are some places where you can go and learn more about Black history and culture, such as the Whitney Plantation, which is outside of New Orleans. It's actually dedicated to the enslaved people and their experiences versus telling the story from the slave master's point of view. I went to that plantation to visit it, and I was just blown away with all of the history that is there at that place. And I, wanted to write about it so that everybody can learn this history, because unfortunately, it's not told in our schools here in the United States. Much of it is it's just glossed over. They talk about Martin Luther King and slavery and the Civil War, and that's it. But a lot of the history it's not written down, and it's not passed on, it's not taught. And so for my blog, I wanted to share this history. And it was important for me to go to Africa. And so I went to Ghana because I wanted to know, where did my ancestors come from? I know that for my family, we actually can trace our family history back all the way to like the 1700s, back to the plantation, for the Claytor side of my family. But we don't know where they came from in Africa, and we don't know that side of the story. And so I went to Ghana because many of the enslaved people came from Ghana. Well, they left from Ghana, but they were from Northern African countries, and then pretty much, put in chains and brought down to the coast and then put on a boat. And so I wanted to learn that side of the story. So I ended up going to the castles on the coast of Ghana. I went in the dungeons where they were held, and that was extreme. Like, that experience where you could see where they were held in dungeons for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and the feces, is still on the floor there. It's ingrained in the ground. Like that experience is like extreme, but I encourage people to go and learn about that history. But I wanted to share with my readers, this is how all of this is connected, this whole slave trade that connects, United Kingdom and the European countries and the Western African countries and the United States. It's a whole triangle and basically based off of business and money. And like when you go there, they kind of explain it all and you can put the pieces together to see how it's all connected and how we're all impacted today from the slave trade that happened, starting back in the 1400s. All of that history, I'm a history fanatic, so that's what I'm interested in, and I try to share what I learn when I visit some of these places.
Just listening to that, I'll be fascinated to go explore more of that. I'll be honest, in terms of the Black history, Black culture, there's not much. I mean, I grew up in the United Kingdom, so there's not much history that comes our way. As you just said, there in the United States, I guess you don't get taught that either. With your blog, would you consider maybe going into schools and talking to schools about this and maybe trying to, I mean, I guess another question, obviously you've written your first book about your time in Latin America. Would you potentially write a book about Black culture, Black history with your travels?
Well, actually, you hit on an important point. I've been encouraged. I've thought about writing a children's book based off of my son, but writing it about my different travels and what I've learned. And so that is one of my next projects is I want to tell the story from a children's point of view and through his eyes so that, young children will be able to learn this history. And I do speak at schools. I get invited from time to time and I share my blog and I share the different places I've been and I've shown them pictures and the kids' eyes just light up because here in the United States, if you're not wealthy or, come from a upper middle class family and a lot of the, I like to call them people of color, not necessarily minority, but, African American families, some Latino families, a lot of those children don't get to travel. And so I like to open their eyes and show them that there is a bigger world than the city or town that they're growing up in.
I think that's a really good idea because people who don't know me, Stephanie and I were on a panel a few weeks back. We spoke about the diverse storytelling and having a kids book on travel and it's got diverse sort of story to it is actually a great way of educating kids. Also, growing up, I was just thinking, I don't remember many travel books that I read growing up. The only thing I can think of is Tintin, and that was it really. But in terms of the narrative coming from different sort of author from a background that isn't from a white culture really is actually really important.
I'm always coming up with ideas, but it's the follow through and the discipline to get it done. But that is high on my list because I've been getting encouraged a lot about it. So I need to get to it. But I will say I grew up reading encyclopedias. This was before the internet and Google. And I was the kid who would go to the library and take out 2 and 3 encyclopedias, as many as I could hold in my backpack, and go home and read about these different countries. That's how much I love studying different cultures and people around the world. And so that's why I say I'm very passionate about travel. And I finally feel like I'm doing something that I really, really enjoy.
Your blogging, by the way, is it going to be involving your family more now going forward?
My blog is kind of transforming because before I would take couple trips. I would take trips with my mom, my friends, and then I went to Ghana as a solo trip. But obviously, as a new mom, that's probably not going to be as possible. So I'm going to be writing more about family travel, family trips. And right now, I have a special called COVID Travel where I'm discussing different places you can go and social distance, kind of local things to do, like a drive-through safari that we just went on, where you can take the kids, have fun, but still remain safe. And so, yeah, that's what I'm kind of transitioning and including more family travel. But I can't wait for the day to take my son to, various places. I lived in Colombia and I lived in the Dominican Republic, and I wrote about those experiences in my book. I still want to get back over there. I haven't been back in a while. And so I would love to take him and show him the different places. I want to take him to Ghana when he's older and old enough to understand. My goal was to go on a safari, so in Kenya. So hopefully I can take him on that at some point. But I can't wait to take him on all the travels.
Africa was on my radar. I was planning on going to Uganda, Kenya as well, actually. I wanted to go see the gorillas. It's been high on my list of things to see, but unfortunately it didn't quite happen. And I wanted to ask you more about your book, actually, because you actually talk about your journey in Latin America. I guess for the viewers, what would be your memorable time there, actually? I mean, I'm assuming you stayed in a few countries.
Yes. And so the book talks about my time in the Dominican Republic and Colombia, and it kind of compares and contrasts the different experiences. It also talks about the different remote, rural Black communities that I visited and shares their history and story. And so I would say I was pretty impressed when I went to the Pacific coast of Colombia. A lot of people may not have visited there, but most of the people are Black. They're Afro-Colombians, very proud of their heritage. They've maintained a lot of the traditions. And so I really had a good time there. And it was just interesting. Like, they spoke Spanish, but when I was sitting there, people were having similar conversations that we would have back in the United States. And they knew a lot of African American artists. This was back in like 2011. So they considered President Barack Obama, they considered him their president. And so it was fun having conversations with them. And I really enjoyed that experience, getting to know that community. But the sad part is a lot of people that live on the Pacific coast of Colombia are being internally displaced because of the civil war that was going on in Colombia. There's since been they've ended the war, but there's still different paramilitary groups that are still fighting each other and displacing people. And so they're having to move from, the countryside and that portion of the country. They're having to move to the big cities like Medellin and Bogota without many resources. And so I also interviewed people who were displaced, and I wrote an entire chapter about what that experience is like. And so that, I would say, that experience was really profound for me.
With travel, a lot of people think it's all, happy, so fun, nothing really happens. But people don't realize there are things like that happen in places in Colombia, things like in Venezuela, there's still issues there. Other parts of the world, similar issues. So, and I think talking about it is really important, and how you can maybe help after you visited a place and maybe give back to the community. I think that's really, really important. And what made you first go out there? Was it for work originally, or was it something that you had to do?
Dominican Republic, I chose because I wanted to learn Spanish. My roommate in college was Dominican. I had gone to Puerto Rico. I really enjoyed it. And she told me that Dominican Republic was pretty similar. So that's how I ended up there. And then after that, I returned back to the United States to finish college. And I felt like I still wanted to improve my Spanish. I still wanted to be abroad. I really enjoy just living in a foreign country, and every day is an adventure and a challenge. And one of my friends had told me, he said, Steph, you should go to Colombia because they have a huge Black population that is very proud of their heritage. Because again, I've studied a lot of different, just the Pan-African diaspora. So especially the people whose ancestors were enslaved. I like comparing, well, how are the Afro-Colombians doing compared to the Afro-Panamanians or the Black Dominicans? Like, I like comparing the different populations. And so I had heard a lot about Colombia, and so I wanted to go there and study that population. So I applied for a Fulbright English teaching assistantship, and I got it. And so I taught English in the capital at Universidad de la Sabana. And then I would travel, like every other weekend, I'd travel around the country. And I went quite often to the Pacific Coast and to Cali, and just met with different people who were Afro-Colombian and kind of documented their story. I did interviews, wrote down a lot of things, and all of that stuff I compiled and put it into the book. So there's several chapters on the different Afro-Colombian populations, because it's actually diverse. You have the people, there's an island called San Andres, which is outside of Nicaragua. You have those Afro-Colombians, then you have the people that call them Pacificos, who are on the western coast of Colombia. Then you have San Basilio de Palenque, which is a Maroon community outside of Cartagena, which is one of the first freed slave towns in the Americas. And so you have that population, and they all have a different story. And so that's what I went there for, to kind of document their story and then share with the masses. Originally, I was going to do a documentary, but I felt it would be easier to get people to read the story. And so I decided instead to compile my interviews into a book.
I think the documentary, I'd love to see it, actually. If you did go back and do it, it would be quite interesting to see. Is it, I mean, obviously you've done so much traveling. Would there be a memorable place? I mean, some of the history that you've learned, can you pick one really, or is it all sort of as important as each other?
Every place I've been to is extremely different, because I've been to Bora Bora, I've been to Tokyo, I went to Belgium and UK, and then I've been to Ghana, and then I've been to several countries in Latin America. So they're all like extremely different. But definitely I would say my top list would be, I really enjoyed my time in Ghana. It was just kind of this like coming home, and you kind of see where everything started. It was a profound experience for me, and I was there alone. It was a solo trip, so I was able to take everything in and just observe everything. And I really enjoyed it, and I was so glad that I went, even if I had to go by myself.
So is your family lineage from Ghana?
I don't know. I'm too scared to give my DNA to Ancestry.com. I want to find out. I know they're probably from somewhere in West Africa, but I'm not sure if it's from Ghana.
It'll be interesting, I guess, when you find out. I guess you can keep it a secret, and then your son can maybe find out in the future. I've seen some of your videos actually where you're doing some gym work at the minute, and what else do you do apart from the gym? Is there anything else that you do to sort of, I guess, with a son, not want to be much time to do anything else, but do you do anything else hobby-wise?
I love salsa dancing. I'm a big Latin dancer, like merengue, salsa, bachata. I love doing that, and I think the last time we went was when I was in Amsterdam at the end of November. And I desperately want to get back to Latin night. I love Latin dancing.
And during the pandemic, by the way, is there any other new tricks or new hobbies that you've picked up maybe?
We take evening walks around our neighborhood. We didn't used to do that before. I really enjoyed it because it's a time to walk with my husband and kind of talk about, whatever's going on or what we're thinking about. So I've enjoyed that. I encourage other couples to do that. Just having a home gym has been awesome, because I didn't make time to go to the gym before the pandemic. And so being able to go in the garage and lift some weights has been awesome. I feel a lot better. And we always watch TV shows, but we've watched a lot of shows since the pandemic began, but we enjoyed it. And also, I didn't used to do grocery delivery or takeout, or getting food delivered to the house. So that's been a new hobby. We used to go out to eat all the time, so now we get everything delivered.
Actually, where did you meet your husband? Was it through work, or was it just through traveling?
We met at the airport.
Oh wow,
At
that's
the airport in
very
Dallas.
romantic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think meeting someone at an airport is actually a great way of starting a journey, isn't it, really?
We were both transplants at the time, living in Shreveport, Louisiana. And so we had went home for Christmas to see our family, and we were both in Dallas, flying back to Shreveport to go back to work. And we met like before the flight to go to Shreveport.
In terms of new developments, I guess you blog, as you said, you want to grow that as much as possible. Is there anything else that you'd like to do? Or I guess you also said that the books as well. Is there anything else that you've got on your radar?
Basically, I plan to reach out to the different tourism entities to try to do more trips, to write about those trips. Also, I would like to work with more brands and maybe some more baby brands with my son. And yeah, writing the children's books, trying to get more people to follow blacktrekking.com, and finding ways to talk about my book online and boost the online sales, since we can't do the markets right now. So I've just been working on getting the word out and putting it in different bookstores around the States or wherever. So if anyone's interested, the book is Blacktrekking-My Journey Living in Latin America, and it's on Amazon.
Really appreciate the time getting to know you, and thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you'd like to know more about Stephanie, you can visit her website, www.blacktrekking.com. You can buy her book from her site. You can also find her on social media under the handle Blacktrekking. That's it for Take a Wander with Shebs. I hope to see you all very soon. Until next time, bye for now.